Part 3, Chapters 3 and 4 of Oblomov by Ivan Alexandrovich Goncharov. Translated by C.J. Hogarth. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Kevin Davidson. Chapter 3. On arriving at his rooms again, Oblomov never noticed that Zakhar gave him a cold dinner, or that after it he rolled into bed and slept heavily and insensibly like a stone. Next day he received a letter in which Olga said that she had spent the whole night weeping. "She has been unable to sleep," he thought to himself. "Poor angel! Why does she care for me so much, and why am I so fond of her? Would we had never met! It's all Schtoltz's fault. He shed love over us as he might have shed a disease. What sort of a life is this? Nothing but anxiety and emotion. How can it ever lead to peaceful happiness and rest?" Sighing deeply, he threw himself upon the sofa, then rose again and went out into the street, as though seeking the normal existence which pursues a daily, gradual course of contemplation of nature, and constitutes a series of calm, scarcely perceptible phenomena of family life. Of existence as a spacious, a turbulent, a billowing river, as Schtoltz always conceived it to be, he could form no conception whatever. He wrote to Olga that he had taken a slight chill in the summer gardens, wherefore he must stay at home for a couple of days, but that he hoped soon to be better and to see her on the following Sunday. In reply, she wrote that he must take the greatest care of himself, that even on Sunday he must not come should he be not well enough, and that a whole week's separation would be bearable to her if thereby he were enabled to avoid risking his health. This excuse for omitting the Sunday visit Oblomov gladly seized upon, wherefore he sent back word that, as a matter of fact, a few days' additional convalescence would be no more than prudent. Day succeeded day throughout the week. He read, he walked about the streets, and occasionally he looked in upon his landlady for the purpose of exchanging a couple of words and drinking some of her excellent coffee. So comfortable did she make him that he even thought of giving her a book to read. But when he did so, she merely read the headings of a chapter or two, and then returned him the volume, saying that later she would get her little girl to read the work to her. Meanwhile Olga received unexpected news. This was to the effect that a lawsuit with regard to her property had ended in her favour, and that within a month's time she would be able, should she wish, to enter into actual possession. But of this and her other plans for the future she decided not to tell Oblomov, but to spend the present hours in dreams of the happiness that was to be hers and his when she had seen love complete its revolution in his apathetic soul, and the slothfulness fall from his shoulders. That very day he was to come. Yet 3 o'clock arrived, 4 o'clock, and no Oblomov. By 5:30 the beauty and the freshness of her features had begun to fade. Insensibly her form assumed a drooping posture, and as she sat at the table her face was pale. Yet no one noticed this. The rest of the guests consumed the dishes which she had prepared for him alone, and carried on a desultory, indifferent chatter of conversation. Until 10 o'clock she vacillated between hope and despair. Then, on the arrival of that hour, she withdrew to her room. At first she showered upon his head all the resentment that was seething within her. Not a word of mordant sarcasm in her vocabulary would she have not devoted to his punishment, had he been present. But after a while her mind passed from fierceness to a thought which chilled it like ice. "He is sick," was that thought. "He is lonely and ill and unable to write." So much did the idea gain upon her that she passed a sleepless night, and rose patient, quiet, and determined. The same morning — it was Monday — the landlady informed Oblomov that a visitor desired to see him. See me? Surely not, he exclaimed. Where is she? Outside. Shall I send her away? Oblomov was about to assent, when Olga's maid, Katya, entered the room. Oblomov changed countenance. " How come you to be here? " he asked. " My mistress is outside," she replied, " and has sent me in to bid you go to her." There was no help for it, so he went out, and he found Olga alone. " Are you quite well? " she exclaimed. " What has been the matter with you? " With that they entered his study. " I am better now. The sore throat is almost gone," he replied, and as he spoke he touched the part mentioned and coughed slightly. " Then why did you not come last night?" She raked him with a glance so keen that for the moment he found himself tongue-tied. " And why have you taken a step such as this?" he countered. " Surely you know what you are doing? "" Never mind," she retorted impatiently. " I do not believe that you have been ill at all." " No, I have not," he confessed. " You have been deceiving me. Why so? "" I will explain later. Important reasons have kept me away from you for a fortnight." " What are they? "" I am afraid of scandal, of people's tongues." " And not of the fact that possibly I might pass sleepless nights, that possibly I might be so anxious as to be unable to rest? "" You cannot think what is passing within me," he said, pointing to his head and then to his heart. " I am all on edge, all on fire." With that he told her what Zakhar had said to him, and ended with the statement that, like himself, he could not sleep, and that in every glance he saw a question, or a sneer, or a veiled hint at the relations which might be existing between her and himself. " Let us decide to tell my aunt this week," she replied, " and at once this chatter will cease. Had I not known you so well, I should scarcely have been able to understand the fact that you can be afraid of servants' gossip, yet not of making me anxious. Really, I cannot understand you. Listen," presently she went on. " There is more in this than meets the eye. Tell me all that is in your mind. What does it mean? " He looked at her, then kissed her hand and sighed. " What have you been doing during this past week?" she persisted as she glanced around the room. " What a wretched place you have got! The windows are small and the curtains dirty. Where are your other rooms? " He hastened to show her them, in the hope that he might divert her mind from the question of his late doings, but she only repeated the question. " I have been reading," he replied, " and writing, and thinking of you." " Have you yet read my books? " she inquired. " Where are they? I will take them back with me." One of them happened to be lying on the table. She looked at the page at which it was opened. She saw that the page was covered with dust. " You have not read them? " she exclaimed. " No," he confessed. Once more she looked at the mess and disorder in the room, and then inquired, " Then what have you been doing? You have been neither writing nor reading." " No, I have not had time to do so. In this place, as soon as one rises, the rooms need to be swept, and other interruptions come afterward. Next, when dinner is over "" When dinner is over you need to go to sleep." So positive in its assurance was her tone that, after a moment's hesitation, he replied that her conjecture was correct. " Why do you do that? "" In order to pass the time. You are not here with me, Olga, and life is wearisome and unbearable without you." Her gaze became so stern that he broke off abruptly. " Listen, Ilya," she said very gravely. " Do you remember saying in the park that at length your life had been fired to a flame, and that you believed me to be the aim, the ideal of your life? "" How should I not remember it, seeing that it has revolutionized my whole existence? Can you see how happy I am? "" No, I do not see it," she replied coldly. " Not only have you deceived me, but also you are letting yourself relapse into your former ways." " Deceived you? I swear to God that, were that so, I would leap into the pit of hell." " Yes, if the pit of hell were just beneath your feet. But were you to put off doing so, even for a day or two, you would straightway change your mind and become nervous about the deed, more especially should Zakhar and the rest begin gossiping on the subject. That is not love. Ah, you have no idea how these cares and distractions have injured my health," he exclaimed. "Ever since I have known you, nothing but anxiety has been my lot. Yet deprivation of you would cause me to die or to go out of my mind. Only through you can I breathe or feel or see. Is it then wonderful that when you are not with me I fall ill? Without you everything is wearisome and distasteful. I feel like a machine. I walk and act without knowing ever what I am doing. Yes, I am like a machine whereof only you are the fuel, the motive power." When she had gone, he trod the floor as on air. How clearly she sees life, he reflected. How unerringly from that book of wisdom is she able to divine her road. Yes, his life and hers had been bound to come together like two rivers, for she, and only she, was his true guide and instructor. The next day there arrived a letter from the lawyer on his estate. He read it through, then let it slip from his fingers to the ground. The gist of the document was that his property was greatly involved, and that, if he wished matters to be set in order, he must hasten to take up his residence on the spot. "Then marriage is not to be thought of for at least another year," he reflected with dismay. "First of all, I shall need to complete my plans for the estate, and then to consult an architect, and then—" He broke off with a sigh. Chapter 4. "Are you certain that nothing remains to you of your property? That there is no hope of anything?" asked Olga a few days later. "Yes, I am certain," he replied, then added with a touch of hesitation in his tone, "but perhaps within a year or so." "Within a year or so you may be able to order your life and your affairs? Reflect a moment." He sighed, for he was fighting a battle with himself, and the battle was reflected in his face. "Listen," she went on. "Remember that you and I are no longer children, and that we are not jesting, and that the matter may affect our whole lives. Inquire sternly of your conscience, therefore, and tell me, for I know you as well as trust you, whether you can stand by me your life long, and be to me all that I need. You know me as I know you. Consequently, you understand what it is that I am trying to say. Should you return me a bold, a considered yes, I will cancel a certain decision of mine. I will give you my hand, and together we will go abroad, or to your estate, or to the Viagborg quarter." "Ah, if you knew how much I love you," he began. "I desire no protestations of love, only a brief answer." "Do not torture me, Olga," he cried with weariness in his tone. "Then I am right in what I suppose?" she asked. "Yes, you are right," was the firm but significant reply. There followed a long pause. "Shall I tell you what you would have done had we married?" at length she said. "Day by day you would have relapsed farther and farther into your sloth. And I? You see what I am, that I am not yet grown old, and that I shall never cease to live. But you would have taken to waiting for Christmas, and then for Shrovetide, and to attending evening parties, and to dancing, and to thinking of nothing at all. You would have retired to rest each night with a sigh of thankfulness that the day had passed so quickly. And each morning you would have awakened with a prayer that to-day might be exactly as yesterday. That would have been our future. Is it not so? Meanwhile, I should have been fading away. Do you really think that in such a life you would have been happy?" He tried to rise and leave the room, but his feet refused their office. He tried to say something, but his throat seemed dry, and no sound would come. All he could do was stretch out his hand. "Forgive me," he muttered. She too tried to speak, but could not. She too tried to extend her hand, but it fell back. Finally her face contracted painfully, and sinking forward upon his shoulder, she burst into a storm of sobbing. It was as though all her weapons had slipped from her grasp, and once more she was just a woman defenceless in her fight with sorrow. "Good-bye, good-bye," she said amid her spasms of weeping. He sat, listening painfully to her sobs, but felt as though he could say nothing to check them. Sinking into a chair and burying her face in her handkerchief, she wept bitter, burning tears, with her head bowed upon the table. " Olga," at length he said, " why torture yourself in this way? You love me, and could never survive a parting. Take me, therefore, as I am, and love in me just as much as may be worthy of it." Without raising her head, she made a gesture of refusal. " No, no," she forced herself to gasp. " Nor need you fear for me in my grief. I know myself. I am merely weeping my heart out, and shall then weep no more. Do not hinder me, but go. God has punished me. Yet how it hurts, how it hurts 1 " Her sobs redoubled. " But suppose the pain should not pass," he said. " Suppose it should wreck your health? Tears like these are tears of poison. Olga, darling, do not weep. Forget the past." " No, no, let me weep. I am weeping not so much for the future as for the past." She could scarcely utter the words. " It was all so bright, but now it is gone. It is not I that am weeping. It is my memory of the summer, of the park, that is pouring out its grief. Do you remember those things? Yes, I am yearning for the avenue, for the lilac that you gave me. They had struck their roots in my heart, and the plucking of them up is so painful indeed." In her despair she bowed her head and sobbed again, repeating, " Oh, how it hurts! Oh, how it hurts!" " But suppose you were to die of this? " he said in sudden alarm. " Olga, Olga, think a minute." " No, no," she interrupted, raising her head and striving to look at him through her tears. " Not long ago I realized that I was loving in you only what I wished you to contain — that it was only the future Oblomov of my dreams. It was so dear to me. Ilya, you are good and honourable and tender, but you are all this only as is a dove which, with its head hidden under its wing, wishes to see nothing better. All your life you would have sat perched beneath the eaves. But I am different. I wish for more than that. Though what it is I wish for, even I myself could scarcely say. On the other hand, do you think that you could have taught me what that something is? That you could have supplied me with what I lack? That you could have given me all that I " Oblomov's legs were tottering under him. Sinking into a chair, he wiped his hands and forehead with his handkerchief. The words had been harsh. They had stung him to the quick. Somehow, too, they had seared him inwardly, while outwardly they had chilled him as with a breath of frost. No more could he do than smile the sort of pitiful, deprecating smile which may be seen on the face of a beggar who is being rated for his sorry clothing — the sort of smile which says, " I am poor and naked and hungry. Beat me, therefore, beat me." Suddenly Olga realized the sting which her words had contained, and threw herself impetuously upon him. " Forgive me, my friend," she said tenderly and with tears in her voice. " I did not think what I was saying, for I am almost beside myself. Yes, forget all that has happened, and let us be as formerly, yet all remain unchanged." " No," he replied abruptly as he rose to his feet and checked her outburst with a decisive gesture. " All cannot remain unchanged. Nor need you regret that you have told me the truth. I have well deserved it." She burst into a renewed fit of weeping. " Go," she said, twisting her tear-soaked handkerchief in her hands. " I cannot bear this any longer. To me, at least, the past is dear." She covered her face, and the sobs poured forth afresh. " Why has everything thus come to rack and ruin?" she cried. " Who has put a curse upon you, Ilya? Why have you done this? You are clever and kind and good and noble, yet you can wreck our lives in this way. What nameless evil has undone you? "" It has a name," he said almost inaudibly. She looked at him questioningly with tear-filled eyes. " That name," he added, " is the disease of Oblomovka." Turning with bowed head, he departed. Whither he wandered, or what he did, he never afterwards knew. Late at night he returned home. His landlady Hearing his knock awoke Zakhar, who undressed his master and wrapped him in the old dressing-gown. " How comes that to be here? " asked Oblomov, glancing at the garment. " I was given it by the landlady to day," replied Zakhar. " She has just cleaned and mended it." Sinking into an armchair, Oblomov remained there. All around was growing dim and dreamlike. As he sat there with his head resting on his hand, he neither remarked the dimness nor heard the striking of the hours. All his mind was plunged into a chaos of formless, indefinite thoughts, which, like the clouds in the sky, passed aimlessly, disconnectedly athwart the surface of his brain. Of none of them could he catch the actual substance. His heart felt crushed, and for the moment the life in it was in abeyance. Mechanically he gazed in front of him without even noticing that day was breaking, or that his landlady's dry cough was once more audible, or that the dvornik was beginning to cut firewood in the courtyard, or that the usual clatter in the house had begun again. At length he went to bed, and fell into a leaden and uncomfortable sleep. " To day is Sunday," whispered the kindly voice of the landlady, " and I have baked you a pie. Will you not have some?" He returned no answer, for he was in a high fever. Chapter 4 Recording by Kevin Davidson. www.blogordie.com